Okay, pranams. Welcome everybody. Thank you for joining me for week number 6 of Tattvabodha with Swami Paramarthananda. Today we are first today I've used AI to make the lectures a little less dry, so hopefully that's helpful and also a little less boring. But we're on to week 6 of Tattvabodha with Swami Paramarthananda, and today we are finishing the qualifications, Sadhana Chatushtaya. We're on the last one, which is called Mumukshutvam, with a recap of the first 3, which is Viveka, Vairagyam, and Shatka Sampat. And then we move into the inquiry into the truth. So, Atmabodha or Tattvabodha or self-inquiry begins properly. After this, with Tattva Viveka Kaha. Okay, so recap. Last time, as I just said, we finished the 3rd D. Swami Paramarthananda has the 4-fold qualifications, Sadhana Chatushtayam, mapped to the 4 Ds for us so that it's easier, which is desire, dispassion, detachment, the 4 Ds. Okay, and then we're entering the core teaching, Tattva Viveka Kaha Atma Satyam Taranyat Sarvam Mithya. So Atman is the truth, and everything else, all the other things, are Mithya. Okay, so into the 4th qualification, the 4th D, Mumukshutvam, which is desire. Out of the 4 Ds, we have discrimination, dispassion, desire, and this one is desire. And the person with that desire, the person who has mumukshutvam, is called the mumukshuhu, and it's not a casual desire. It's not I want this or I want that, how we would like to have a car or how we would like to have a house. It's actually a priority desire. So in life, we have all of these sorts of priorities. We want to have a house, and we want to have food, and we want to have shelter, and we have all of these desires, and that we have priorities. We prioritize those desires. So the most important ones is having a house and is having money and income to support our way of life. Okay, and then once we've got those, we start looking at karma. So that's artha, and then we start to look at kama, where we want to have not just a house, but a nice house. Not just a bed, but a comfy bed. Okay, and so having mumukshutvam is having that desire for moksha or that desire for freedom being the number 1 priority in your life. So it's not that we neglect everything else. We accept that they are necessary and that we do need to have a job and that we need to work in society and do these things. But we're doing these things as a means for moksha. So moksha is the priority in life. Okay? So it may not be the number 1 priority. It doesn't have to be the number 1 priority yet, since we're learning how to cultivate these. Okay, but the simple fact is that we do have this mumukshutvam to a degree, and that's why we're sitting in Tattvabodha classes. So we have that desire. It is a priority, and Vedanta aims to have that priority shift towards becoming the number 1 priority. Okay, so mumukshus come in varying strengths. The strongest mumukshu, called the Uttama or the Uttama Adhikari, he has very strong desire for moksha, and it's his number 1 priority. And we have the Madhya Mumukshu, who does desire moksha, but he has other desires that come before that. And the three-step logic is that we get that mumukshutvam, that desire for liberation. We get that desire, and then we get the qualifications. So we get the qualifications, we get that desire, and then we get the knowledge, and then the knowledge leads to liberation. So it's qualification, knowledge, and liberation. And part of this recap is, why should we even want moksha? Because moksha is the real win. All of the other attainments and achievements that we have in life are mithya, which means they're subject to the onslaught of the effects of time. They come, they go, they're born, they die, and they are impermanent by nature. For us to have any sort of lasting peace or happiness, we need to have our reality, our life revolving around something that is stable. We need to have something that is infinite, because only something infinite can offer true stability and happiness in life. Okay, so the things that we get is the seeking, jignasa nivrittihi, not just seeking, not just spiritual seeking, but seeking the big questions in life. Who am I? Where am I? What is existence? What is God? What is the universe? What happens when I die? These questions end. So that's nivrittihi, means the stopping of those thought patterns. And we have ananda praptihi. Praptihi means attaining. So ananda praptihi is we attain fullness. Okay? Ananda is often translated as happiness, but I would like us to here translate it as purnaha, which means completeness. It means I'm full. There's nothing that the world can offer me. How can somebody give me $1 million when the $1 million is within me and I give existence to the $1 million? There's nothing to give me and there's nothing to take from me because I am full. That's what Ananda Praptihi is. Karpanya Nivrittihi, no, inner poverty. So poverty is here spiritual dependence. So depending on the world for the satisfaction, for happiness. It's relying on cars and jobs and the life set up to bring you comfort and security. Okay? Karta Nivrittihi, immunity from shocks and traumas. So when bad things do happen, when somebody dies, or if you're diagnosed with some horrible disease, we don't get shocked from these. They don't cripple us. They may still surprise us and need our attention, but we aren't bogged down by them. They aren't unhealthy, and we can operate in life. We are efficient, which is dakshata praptihi. Because we don't get these shocks, we become efficient in life at everything. We handle stress, so therefore we are good at business, we're good at meditation, we're good at dealing with stocks, we're also good at cleaning the house and maintaining our own emotional stability. Okay, so hopefully those are starting to get pretty familiar now. These have been part of the theme for the last few weeks now. So that should all be starting to get quite familiar. I'll say again, it's not necessary to remember all of these. If you know that there's 5 benefits to moksha, that's good. That's good. I think it should be a rule that we try to remember sadhana chatushtayam and the names of those, but Swami was kind enough to put those in English for us with the 4 Ds. So rather than Viveka, Vairagyam, Shatka, Sampattihi, and Mumukshu. If you can remember the 4 Ds, that's also very good. So the qualification summary, Etat Sadhana Chatushtayam, is Viveka, Vairagya, Shat Sampatti, and Mumukshutvam. The technical name for this being Sadhana Chatushtayam. And here's a little gloss I put in a smaller font. These are worth remembering so that when Swami does use these terms in the Gita, we don't look at the ceiling. But again, it's worth noting Swami invented the 4 Ds and he does use them throughout. Whenever he mentions Sadhana Chatushtaya, he more often than not mentions the 4 Ds. Okay, so this eligibility word, adhikari. So the person who has sadhana chatushtaya is called sadhana chatushtaya sampannaha. But another word, and if you had to remember one of these words, I would remember this one, adhikari. Adhikari is the one who has sadhana chatushtayam. So I just want to swap over to here. Mumukshutvam kim. What is mumukshu? A desire for liberation. That is sadhana chatushtayam. Etat refers to all of these explanations. Vairagya vivekaha. So that is sadhana chatushtayam. Tataha. After that discrimination, tattvabodha. After that discrimination of reality, bhavanti becomes adhikarinaha. Okay, so after having done the discrimination of having learned that discrimination of reality, you become an adhikari. Okay, so that's the adhikari. So here, when we're talking about who is fit, we're talking about the one who has developed discrimination between atma and anatma. That's the real and the unreal. So that is vivekaha. And out of viveka comes vairagyam, so we should assume that they have that one too. Okay, so we have the adhikari here. They're the eligible student. Eligible for what? Vedanta. They are eligible for Tattvaviveka, which is Tattvabodha or self-knowledge. So, having studied the last week's thing, another question, a question which I've addressed once, but a question which may or may not have arisen is, what if I'm not qualified yet? This text assumes that I'm ready. But in life, many of us aren't fully 4D complete yet. Okay, so we don't all completely have the highest level of sadhana chatushtayam. So how do we gain that qualification? The answer is karma yoga. That is the method that will be prescribed and will be taught in depth in the Bhagavad Gita. And I just want to remind everyone that we don't need to have the full qualifications. What we currently possess is the required amount of qualifications to commence. Okay? So we have the required qualifications to begin. Now, I have a story here that has been organized that demonstrates this point, I think, very well. So imagine a guy gets hired as a paramedic, and on the first day, he gets the uniform and he puts it on and he takes photos and posts them all over the place and looks impressive. And then a real emergency happens. There's blood and chaos and pressure with split-second decisions, and he folds immediately. How come? Because wearing the uniform is not the same as being trained. Then there's another guy He doesn't have the theatrics, he just keeps showing up and he learns all of the protocols and he does the drills and he makes mistakes and he gets corrected and he gets pressure tested and he keeps going. And slowly the responses all become stable. And it's not because he likes this identity, it's because the training is actually changing him and shaping him and the way he thinks. So that is karma yoga. The puja, japa, and ritual and all that is good. But by itself, it's closer to the uniform than the training. It can support the process. But in actual life, we're still reactive and we're still driven by raga, dvesha, and we're full of the ego and impulses, and the pressure will explode it straight away. Karma yoga is where the training happens. It's the training ground. It's in the middle of life. While life's happening, that's the training ground. Anger and fear and jealousy and craving and frustration and disappointment is the training ground. We do that long enough and the mind changes. It becomes steadier, less reactive, and more prepared. And then it is actually fit for self-knowledge. Okay? So that's important to understand. It's not a sadhana. It's not karma sadhana. It's karma yoga. The things that make karma yoga are sadhanas, but life itself, as we develop our knowledge and our skill, becomes the sadhana. And I have a video that I want to share that I made in the past about karma yoga. Okay, there's a video. That's not part of the weekly syllabus. You will understand this week's syllabus without that video. This is extra. If you would like to, then you can listen to that. It is a bit of a deeper dive into karma yoga. Of course, it doesn't replace chapter 3. It's just something that I made on some topics that I found nice and useful. Okay, so close that one. So the big reality check is, am I qualified? The answer is most likely not 100% with a comma, but you don't need to be, because karma yoga and the way of life that we're going to be learning is the training ground itself. You have enough to get here, so you can call yourself a mumukshu, you can call yourself an Advaita Adhikari. But now our goal is to shift Vedanta from a lukewarm idea and a casual hobby to a higher priority. Okay, that's it. It's very simple, that's it. Now, karma yoga is not one action. Like I said before, karma yoga should not be defined as puja or japa or even Gita Parayanam or anything like that. Those are sadhana. Karma yoga itself should be a way of life, and instead of having sadhana spread sporadically throughout the day, as we develop skill, the day itself and everything in that day should become karma yoga. So it's fine to use sadhana, puja, and all of these things are very, very good. but they are simply supports to anchor us down throughout the day so that in between these things we can remember. Okay? And Karma Yoga produces a degree, okay? So it's cultivating that spiritual readiness. In the same way that we go to school to cultivate the preparedness to go to high school. And we go to high school to cultivate the preparedness to go to university. Okay? We go to school because we want knowledge. Okay? So we are officially in school because we want knowledge. We are mumukshus, but we're going to cultivate that. All of the four. And in this week's lecture, Swami gave what he called a trailer version. Okay, it's a preview into Karma Yoga. He said that Tattvabodha's job is not to teach us Karma Yoga, it's to define Karma Yoga. So, right now, you may be feeling like you don't quite understand Karma Yoga. That's okay. We're only enumerating things and giving them names. Because we should remember that this Tattvabodha study isn't to give us enlightenment. This Tattvabodha study is to enable us with the necessary skills to navigate the Vedanta texts. That's why this is such an important text, because this is your foundation for how you're going to understand the rest of Vedanta. So unless this is strong, the whole rest of the path won't be as strong as it could have potentially been. So this is a trailer or a preview version, and we have 3 sections to study. That is Satkarmani, Satgunaha, and Satbhavanaha. Okay, and Swami likened this to a headline. We have the news. We read some piece of news. First thing we read is the headline. This person gets gold medal in the Olympics. And then we go into that story to learn the fine details. Okay, so this is the headline, and in the Gita, we'll go into the actual story and get the fine details. And I have an example to tie these 3 together. So I'm going to gloss these 3 here, and then I have a story to tie them together. Satkarmani, good actions. What is a good action? A good action is an action that has more beneficiaries. The higher the amount of beneficiaries, the more superior that karma is. Lowest karma has only one beneficiary. And there's a little awkward face there saying me. So, lowest level of action we can perform benefits me only. Paropakara karmani. Benefit others action. Okay? So that's an action that benefits others. You may benefit also. It's not selfish to benefit from an action. It's selfish to be the only one benefiting from an action. Okay, that's not for all cases, but broadly. Part 2. Satgunaha, healthy virtues. Examples given are truthfulness, compassion, humility, consideration for others. The core idea, Karma Yoga isn't just what you do, it's what kind of person you are while you're doing that. Okay? Part 3. Satbhavana, healthy attitude towards the creation. What attitude? The attitude towards family, neighbors, people, animals, plants, and nature. Don't treat the world as an enemy to conquer. Treat it as the field where you grow properly. Okay, so this Karma Yoga attitude that we're going to adapt will make it so that we don't see the world and its people as something to compete with, but we see them as opportunities and tools to use for our growth. And here's this analogy that I mentioned. There is a restaurant owner who proudly says, I run a great restaurant, proper loud about it, a big talker. We do charity dinners sometimes. We donate food once a month. We're a great restaurant. As someone goes, all right then, let's actually look. And they come in on a normal day, not on some polished PR day, just an ordinary day. And first they look at the action, Satkarmani. Is this place genuinely helping people in the day-to-day, or is it just putting on a little show here and there? What do they find? The staff are overworked. The chef is stressed. Customers are treated like numbers, and the whole setup is built around squeezing in as much profit as possible. Sure, there is a charity dinner once a month, but the other 29 days it is ruthless. And so the visitor says, that's not really a good action. That's an occasional goodness that's pasted on top of otherwise selfish structure. Real Satkarmani means the general direction of your actions is not just towards me and mine. It should be outward facing, more beneficiaries, not just self-interest with a few decorations. And then the owner, he gets a little bit defensive and he says, yeah, but I'm still doing a good thing. And he says, fine. The visitor says, fine, go one layer deeper. Now they look at the person himself, Satgunaha. Because even if the action looks decent on paper, a person can still be full of ego and impatience and harshness and poison while they do them. So they watch how he speaks to the staff. He's harsh, impatient, proud, and humiliating. So the food might be good, but the whole atmosphere is off. So the visitor says, see, virtues matter. Satgunaha is not some abstract theory. It is the quality of the person doing the action. If the inner person is not growing, even the outer action does not really purify the mind. It just becomes another ego trip. Okay? So if your inner voice and attitude and emotions and bhavana isn't matching the outward, then the outward is worthless. Okay? So the heart has to be in it, more or less. So now the owner settles down a bit and he says, all right, fair enough. So actions and character. The visitor says, still not enough. There's a third layer, and this is the one that people usually miss. Then they look at the attitude, satbhavana. They ask, how do you actually see the world? How do you see other people? And how do you see life itself? Because if he sees the staff as tools, the customer as wallets, and nature as something to exploit, and the world as just a battlefield to conquer, then even his good actions are going to be dry. They'll be mechanical and they will serve him only. And so the visitor says, the right bhavana is reverence, not some sentimental performance, just basic reverence. Respect for the field that you are living in. Respect for people, for life, for nature, for dharma, and for knowledge. When that's there, the mind starts to soften, and then actions change properly. So to sum it up, Sat karmani is what you do. Sat gunaha is what you are while you're doing it. And sat bhavana is the attitude that you carry towards the whole field of life. And then we basically land with this. Karma yoga is not one nice deed here and there. It's a total reworking of the person, the actions, the character, and the attitude all get aligned towards purification. Okay, so the goal of Karma Yoga, just to recap one final time, is not to sit down and do prayer or to do puja or to do any of these individual sadhana. These sadhana act as anchors. The anchors should help us throughout the day to remember that life is the training field. Karma Yoga is life. It should be a way of life. Okay? It's not something we pick up and put down. Sure, that's fine in the initial steps. That's fine, we're growing. But what we want to grow into is a complete vision that I am in God and everything that I see is God, including the table, including the chairs, including the stars, including my mind, including all of my thoughts, including all of the laws that conduct the way nature operates, including, see, the laws govern the whole universe down to evolution and gravity, but the laws also govern the way your thoughts operate. They're all obeying laws as well. So we want all of this to come into the single vision. We want to see everything as God, and that God is Brahman, and Aham Brahmasmi. I am that Brahman. The essence of this jiva and the essence of Ishvara himself are both Brahman. And hopefully, with God's grace, one day we can learn that I am that Brahman. So that's the goal. Okay? The goal is to use Karma Yoga as a way of life so that we can convert that way into life, that way of life, into self-knowledge. So it's very important. The relay race model. Okay. So the Veda is in two parts. The first part of the Veda is Karma Kanda, and the second part is Jnana Kanda. We have the first part being the ritualistic portion, which also has Karma Yoga. So we have the Karma Yoga portion of the Vedas, which does what? It gives us eligibility. It gives us Jnana Yogyata, which means this prepares us and turns us into an adhikari. So, first portion is for Karma Yoga. That Karma Yoga turns me into an adhikari by giving me sadhana chatushtayam. The second part of the Vedas is called the Upanishads. The Upanishads gives me knowledge. So the entire path in its most basic form is get purified, get knowledge, get liberated. I think we had that somewhere at the start. Get qualified, get knowledge, get liberated. Okay? And for that, we require a desire. The desire leads to effort, and the effort leads to result. So that's the formula there, guys. First part of the Veda gives sadhana chatushtayam. Second part of the Veda gives knowledge. The formula is first part of the Veda plus the final portion of the Veda, that equals moksha. Okay? So, that's what we've covered so far in the Tattvabodha. I'll just bring up Tattvabodha. My preferred website for seeing Tattvabodha is Shlokam. Okay, that does not have to be your preferred website, but if you're ever wanting a good one, you can go straight there. And it's reliable and good. So we've covered all of this. Vasudevendra Yogindram. So this was the invocation. This is explaining who has the fourfold qualifications and what it is. What is sadhana chatushtayam? It is nitya anitya vastu vivekaha. It is ihamutrartha phalabhoga viragaha, shamadhi shatka sambhatihi, and mumukshutvam. Okay, so that's the four. We have viveka, vairagyam, shamadhi shatka sambhatihi, and shamadhi is only shamaha, adi, or shamaha, etc. So it's shamaha and the rest. Shat means 6, sampatihi, and mumukshutvam. So that's what we've just covered. Mumukshutvam was today. And then this was where they did the covering. This is the descriptions of the Shamadhi Shatka. We've got the descriptions of Vairagya, the description of Viveka, which we've covered, the description of Mumukshutvam, which was today. And now, Tattva Viveka Kaha. What is inquiry into reality? What is inquiry into the truth? Okay, so if we go over to the final slide for today, Tattva Viveka Kaha. Okay, so what is discriminating reality? And it says here, Atma Satyam Taranyat Sarvam Mithyeti. Okay, this is actually the next part. Atma Kaha. What is the self? So this says Atma is Satyam. Atma is the truth. Atma is reality. Taranyat, everything else, Sarvam, everything else is Mithya, iti. Okay, so then they say, what is Atma then? Okay, and we know that Atma is Satyam and Anatma is Mithya. That was the definition of Vivekaha. Nitya Anitya Vastu Viveka Kaha. Okay, so Nitya Anitya. We're learning the difference between Nitya and Anitya. And that question that I highlighted there, then what is the self? Atma Kaha. We will see in next week's material. So that's this week's lecture number 6, guys. I will share those analogies. There's one there that I forgot, but it was only elaborating on mumukshutvam, which I improvised with anyway. So I'll send those through. I hope this was useful for you. Let me know if the new slides were distracting or if they were nice. That's it for now. I'll drop those materials by the end of today for week 7 Tattvabodha and week 7 Bhagavad Gita. I'll upload this video and Bhagavad Gita number 6 shortly. So just to recap, I'll upload Tattvabodha 6 and Gita 6 today, and I will also share the materials for week 7 today. Alright, that's it for now. Enjoy the rest of your day. Hari Om.